if you look at the systemic problems that have faced women, that have faced people of color, it is when they could not break into the networks of opportunity and the access to capital, to credit, to resources because they weren't part of a certain group, right? And so I think if each of us, particularly from a place of privilege, who are in a place of privilege, if each of us looked to our right and to our left and say, hold on, if everyone looks just like Otis and sounds just like Otis that's in my network, I'm doing something wrong. And to have intentionality about broadening our network, it's gonna make me a better person, it's gonna make a better tomorrow for everyone.
Hello everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome Otis Rolley, Head of Philanthropy and Community Impact at Wells Fargo and President of the Wells Fargo Foundation, to the Nasdaq Spotlight Series.
So great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's lovely to have you. Otis, you've committed your entire career to driving positive change in local communities. As Head of Social Impact, you're putting your experience and vision to work for housing affordability, financial health, a sustainable future. And I know that you share in the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center's mission of access and equity in entrepreneurship by fueling small business growth. At Nasdaq, our purpose is to advance economic progress for all. And as the board chair of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, we are so honored to be working with you to support thousands of women business owners, predominantly women of color, gain access to critical knowledge, network, and resource support that helps them build more sustainable, resilient businesses. Otis, in your view, what is the business case for fixing the existing imbalance of equity in entrepreneurship?
Sure. Well, before I answer that question, first and foremost, I just want to thank the NAC and NASDAQ for the opportunity to partner. It is so crucial that this work be underway, right? And it can only be done through great partnerships. And NASDAQ and the NEC just really has been a phenomenal partner. So thank you. So I want to say that I think in terms of the business case, it literally just makes common sense, right? To do this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the stronger our neighborhoods and communities are, the stronger our total global economy is. And we know that small businesses are really the heartbeat, the fuel that enable the economy to grow. The vast majority of jobs that are produced in our country come from small businesses, right? And so at the end of the day, from Wells Fargo's perspective, we really just see this as common sense, right? There is a business imperative in terms of supporting families and communities. And when you know that our philanthropic and business investments are going to help to make a more stable community economy, state economy, national economy, then it just makes a heck of a lot of good sense in doing it. We also know that at the end of the day, and data shows us this, that women are supporting those families, right? And so if you're going to invest in entrepreneurs, it also makes a heck of a lot of sense to invest in women entrepreneurs because they are really those linchpins that are supporting families and communities as well.
The backbone of that community
right.
And the heartbeat of their families
Most definitely.
There's that combination together. Now, we work together on the Milestone Circles with the NEC, and that is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a peer-led program which is celebrating 2 years and heading into its 3rd year with you, which we are so delighted to be working with you on it. So the Circles helps women business owners crystallize their vision, build their business, and grow a support network that helps them today and in the future. So tell me a bit more about that. Like, what role do you really see peer support, and how does it play in business resiliency and network expansion?
Right. At the end of the day, we're talking about a community of practice and a community of learning, right? That we know, and I've been really excited in terms of Milestone. We've seen about 1,700 women supported over the last 2 years, and we're excited about the 1,500 that are going to be supported in the next 12 months. That at the end of the day, when we say a community of practice and a community of learning, those individuals who are doing this work in terms of entrepreneurship, they need each other, right? Iron sharpens iron, and there's so much to those networks of what you can learn from each other, both in terms of failures and successes, right? And the practice of doing the work together, particularly because entrepreneurship can be lonely. It can be frustrating as heck, right? And to be outside of the kind of the structured reality of a day-to-day job. And so to have that support network to learn from, to help you in terms of encouragement, and to also get that technical assistance and contextualize technical assistance, right? Because if I'm starting a computer science kind of business, others who are doing that, you can learn from. If I'm doing entrepreneurship at the commercial kind of retail level, and someone else is doing that, they will have gone through certain experiences that we can learn and grow together. And so we see it as a community of practice and a community of learning, as those two being opportunities for folks to really thrive and achieve great success.
I think it's so important when you have someone who's either going through something at the same time as you,
Yes.
or has just recently gone through it. So it's fresh, it's relevant, and it makes a really meaningful connection.
Most definitely. And you're not alone.
Very much.
Yeah.
It's a company, it's a neighborhood, it's a family. Research led by the center last year, thanks to the very generous support of the Wells Fargo Foundation, found that it took women business owners an average of 8 years to write themselves a paycheck. Can you speak to how lived experiences shape the trajectories of small businesses, and what interventions you've seen that are effective in supporting business success in those early years?
It is really sad when you talk about that 8-year gap, right? It's even sadder when we think about that only about 2% of venture capital is going to women entrepreneurs, right? And so there are various data points that can make tears start to fall. So we're trying to wipe those tears and eliminate them, but to be as smart in the interventions and recognizing that we have to have a certain degree of intentionality. That's what makes Milestone so awesome, right? Is that at the end of the day, we know that it's an issue of network and peer support, that it's an issue of access to capital and credit, when we know it's an issue of technical assistance, and Milestone really addresses all three. And so that's why when we look at where there are opportunities for direct intervention, it is programs like Milestone and others that we support, because we see that the problems that exist are real and have existed for a while and were intentional. Right? And so if we are going to come with solutions, they have to be systemic and they also have to be intentional. And that's why I love the way the program has been designed and developed and how we keep learning. The reason why we can talk about 1,500 in 1 year after 1,700 in 2 years is because what we learned in the first 2 years, right?
You're iterating and growing it.
That's exactly right? And there's a path towards success that I think together we're going to be able to achieve.
Which I think is an exciting time to do that.
I agree.
Seeing the growth in that trajectory and the opportunity that comes with that growth, I think is so important to see from an intentionality perspective.
Most definitely.
Okay, so through your work, Otis, you've spent a lot of time focused on community investment and development. We found that through the center's programs and research, geography deeply affects, positive and negative, access and equity in entrepreneurship. What do you think the ideal role of community should be as it relates to finance and entrepreneurship?
You've heard of support groups, right? At the end of the day, a support group is really a community, right? It is a community.
Yeah.
And so I think the reality is that the community should provide you with the resources that you need. A minister who I used to work with, he used to say all the time, everything that you need is here, right, at his particular faith-based institution. And I think in the same way, in every community, regardless of the zip code, there should be resources present where we can do both give and take, right? The best community is going to be able to provide the loyal customer base for entrepreneurs, right? They're going to be able to provide the capital for those entrepreneurs. And so I think at the end of the day, community matters, right? I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, not too far from Nasdaq, one of the most diverse places in the United States. But sadly, also, when particularly as I was growing up, it was just really the racial injustice, the lack of equity, particularly in my public high school, it was problematic, right? But it was also in that community where interventions took place, right? And so while my high school was awful, the college near my high school stepped up and provided additional resources to give me and many of my classmates the support that we need. And I see that same model within Milestone, right? That at the end of the day, even when there are failures within the community, that same community can also provide the solutions, right? And that's why we have to also try to address that community and provide to that community those resources to achieve the success that women entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs of color, and all entrepreneurs will need to achieve success. And there's the scarcity argument is a false one. Right? There's enough for us all to eat and to eat well. And we don't take away from anyone else by providing additional resources to women so that they can step up and provide for their families and for their communities. And so I think community matters. And if we see failures, we have to address those failures and do everything within our power as the private sector, on the public side, and our bank really recognizes that, both on the business side and on the philanthropic side. We have a program called Open for Business, where we took $420 million and tried to deploy it very specifically and intentionally towards women and people of color, providing access to capital and credit in a way that we thought could really have a positive influence and impact on those communities. And we're starting to see some of those positive impacts.
That's amazing. And to your point, it's not taking away from anyone else.
No.
It's adding. It's seeing where there is a need and an opportunity and doubling down on it. Say, here's how we can support you. Here's what your community needs. Here are the resources. Here's the audience for you as well,
That's
by
exactly
the way.
right. Yeah.
The audience is there as much. That's part of the whole community. And here are the learnings we can achieve from together. Otis, underrepresented entrepreneurs have seen a pledge of billions of dollars committed to their support. And yet we hear directly from them how hard it is for them to access capital for their business. As one of the world's largest banking institutions, what's Wells Fargo doing to address this disconnect through programs like Milestone Circles and Open for Business and other efforts? How's that going?
I think Charlie Scharf and both the Wells Fargo on our business side and the philanthropic side really recognizes that if we can only prosper if our community is prospering. And so there's a saying where they say, don't talk about it, be about it, right? And we try to be about it, whether it's Open for Business in terms of deploying those funds to a small business, the Milestone project. All of these things are we see as partnerships. We know that we cannot do it alone. This problem is not going to be solved by philanthropy, right? In terms of the gross and systemic inequity within our system, but we can step up, right? And the banks can step up, but the public sector also needs to step up, and all private sector. And so when we look at our strategic focus of our philanthropy in terms of housing access and affordability, small business growth, financial health, and sustainability, those make sense because they are also priorities of the bank. And so you have both the commercial side and the philanthropic side working together towards improving our overall economy and our overall health. It works for the community, it works for the bank. And it ends up being really a kind of a triple bottom line, in fact, in helping everyone.
The two coming together in tandem is really what I think makes it so key.
Most
that
definitely.
Combination. Pivoting slightly away from Milestone Circles, but staying on the work that we do together, designing your capital journey as a business in your early years is challenging on a good year, let alone in today's market.
Yes.
So in partnership with Wells Fargo, the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center is today launching a Capital Pathways Workbook,
Yes.
which we're all so excited about.
Likewise.
So this resource provides a strategic roadmap looking holistically across leadership, business, and market conditions to help people make empowered decisions on what capital to prioritize in support of the big vision. Mm-hmm. So Otis, question for you, what questions sort of short-term and long-term should entrepreneurs consider as they bring outside capital into their businesses in those early years?
Well, first and foremost, I want to address the workbook. I'm particularly excited as the head of a foundation. I've worked in other philanthropic endeavors. I've worked on the private side of the nonprofit side, and it is exceptionally frustrating when a lot of research occurs that has not been applied.
Yeah.
Right. Sadly, you hear about 6, 7, 8, 9-figure budgets towards research that doesn't then go to actually change the bottom line for everyday people. Right? And so that's why I'm really excited about the workbook, because I think those are the tools and resources when people start in business, when they say, doggone it, if only, right.
What's the action that you can take to do something? This is the action.
This is the action,
puts it into
right?
place.
And and so I just think it is just such a powerful tool. So I'm really excited about the launch of that. But there are a number of things. One is really just having a clear understanding in terms of the game plan, right? And knowing exactly what it is that you want to do, and those who are in the space, so that you can actually reach out to try to have an understanding of your specific sector, your specific interest area, and then getting the knowledge and resources from others in terms of it. I think number two is also not being afraid to ask questions. There is, particularly as a new entrepreneur, you feel like, well, I don't know, but I don't want to show that I don't know because then I might not get the investments that I need. And no, right? Some of the billionaires that exist today, one of the reasons why they are billionaires, number one, they embrace failure. Right? And we talk about this often at the bank of fail fast, learn fast, fix fast, right? But you can't do those things without asking those questions. And so a willingness to stay in that mode of asking those questions again.
I think that's amazing. I totally agree. And I almost think it's the fear factor too. Don't lean into the fear factor. Embrace the failure.
That's right.
Don't be afraid to fail. And also don't be afraid to ask. It's that some people have that fear like, oh, I shouldn't ask a question. I'm too scared to ask a question.
No.
Ask away.
That's right.
Get the questions, get it out there, and be confident in the question asking, the decision making. Don't worry about it.
My grandmother used to say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? And there's the thing, you have to open your mouth to ask the question, to seek help. There's no shame in it. In fact, it's a sign of strength.
Agreed. You need to embrace what you don't know and ask someone who does to help you, and you will grow stronger as a result of it.
That's right.
All right, one last question.
Okay.
What would you question today, Otis, in order to build a better tomorrow?
I would ask everyone, including myself, to question their network. Right? If you are looking to your right and your left and everyone looks like you and sounds like you, you're not creating a better tomorrow. Right? The diversity is our strength. I think if you look at the systemic problems that have faced women, that have faced people of color, it is when they could not break into the networks of opportunity and the access to capital, to credit, to resources because they weren't part of a certain group, right? And so I think if each of us, particularly from a place of privilege, who are in a place of privilege, if each of us looked to our right and to our left and say, hold on, if everyone looks just like Otis and sounds just like Otis that's in my network, I'm doing something wrong. And to have intentionality about broadening our network, it's going to make me a better person. It's going to make a better tomorrow for everyone.
Love it. It's a great one. Otis, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to speak to you and to catch up on all things Milestone Circles, Capital Pathways, and Wells Fargo. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and thanks for being a great partner.
It's great having you.